So today I'm just going to take you quickly over one of the ways in which you can look at the language paper one. Language paper one, question five, paper one, question five, creative writing question. And this is for the description, okay, where you will be given an image like so, and you'll be asked to write a description about it. Okay, now there's multiple different ways in which you can approach this question. And I'm going to give you probably the most effective way and the most efficient way and the easiest to execute when you're writing an assessment. And it's called the zoom method. Zoom, and it's exactly how it sounds. We slowly zoom in onto different aspects of the text. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to look at the panoramic view, excuse my writing, okay, or the wider view. So what this is taking into consideration the entire picture. So the whole picture as a whole and everything that you can see. And then slowly you zoom in onto particular elements. You zoom, then you shift to another element, and then you zoom on that. Okay. Nicely linking these together as many times as you see fit, or as many times as time allows. I would recommend probably doing 3 zooms, okay, and slowly getting closer into what you want to focus on. Now, in your first paragraph, what you really want to be doing, paragraph one, okay, is you want to be focusing on that panoramic view. Just going to put pan view. Okay, you want to be looking at that panoramic view. And you really want to be focusing on broadly describing the scene. Okay? So broadly describing, descriptive, describing the scene. My writing will get better, I promise. Describing the scene. Everything that you can see on that image, you want to broadly describe it in order to bring it in when you are zooming in. Okay? This will allow you to set two things. You'll be able to set the time, okay? And you'll be able to set the atmosphere. Most importantly, it is the atmosphere, because this is what's going to immerse immerse the reader in your work. Okay, this is what is going to immerse the reader in your world. Because if you think when you're stood there and you're wanting to describe something to the reader, you want them to be as immersed and engulfed in your description as they possibly can be. And they can't be immersed or engulfed in it if they don't know what's going on all around them. So imagine that you are stood facing this door in this situation. You're stood there and you're wanting to give them a snapshot of everything that you can see. Okay. Now, when you go into your second paragraph, okay, this is where you want to think about, okay, where do my eyes shift to? Where do my eyes look? And why am I looking there? So you zoom in on a particular moment, okay? So as you're stood there and you broadly describe the scene and the setting around you, creating the atmosphere that you want that's applicable to the picture, you then want to think, right, my eyes have now drawn me to a particular element of this image. And you zoom in on that. And you craft an immersive, again, repeating the word immersive, and detailed paragraph on that particular moment. Using phrases like, my eyes shifted to, or I glanced over at, or I could slowly see. Okay? So you want to be saying things like, my eyes shifted to, or I glanced over, glanced over. Okay. Now, if you really want to set the atmosphere and set the tone, add in an adverb. Okay. I slowly glanced, or I quickly looked. Okay? Now, bearing in mind, you want to choose the appropriate adverb for the atmosphere you're trying to set. If you're trying to set one that is tense and gloomy, saying you quickly looked may be a little bit not fitting, incorrect for that moment. You'll want to slowly look over as you then zoom in at particular moment. Okay? Now, you have two options from here once you've zoomed in. You can then go into paragraph 3, okay? And you can zoom back out, zoom out. So zoom back out, bring the reader back to reality of seeing everything before you zoom back in. So maybe something really particular has changed in the scenery. So as you're really focusing on that door handle, or door frame, as you zoom back out, maybe the fog has cleared, or maybe the bushes have moved slightly. And then that can trigger you to look at something else. Okay. So imagine different things are happening within your description. So imagine the image is coming to life and you're wanting to pull out different elements as they move and as they change, depending on the atmosphere that you want to create. You zoom back out, okay? And then paragraph 4, zoom back in. So zoom back in on a specific element. So again, immersive description. Immersive description. Now, obviously, your attention is going to be massively focused on what you zoom back in on and really make the reader feel that. We're going to go into that in a moment in terms of incorporating the five senses. Okay. Zoom in, make sure that they're really feeling the setting that you're trying to create. Best way to do that is imagine you are placed in the scene, you are placed there, and you're the one experiencing what is happening. Okay, whatever the setting, whatever the image, place yourself in a position and imagine everything around. Okay, and a really nice thing just to really polish off the end of your creative writing in your paragraph structuring is conclude with a final thought. Okay, conclude with final thought. Now, this can be absolutely anything, but what I would recommend is link back to your atmosphere. If something's changed, or you want to create a particular effect, perhaps if you're looking at this door so closely and loads of spooky things are happening around you, maybe you'll want to conclude with, it just didn't seem right, or something like that. Okay? Imagine what you would be feeling after you've sort of witnessed this door and things have moved and you've looked around and you're getting this spooky and gloomy feeling. Conclude with how you're feeling right at the very end. Nothing felt right after. Something like that. Okay, but always conclude with a final thought. Okay, now I'm going to take a slow pause so you can address what's on here. Okay, that's the paragraph structure. Now, notice there's no language details in there. That is simply how you want to structure your paragraphs. Now, in terms of choosing bits to zoom in on, before you even start writing, just doodle on the image. So I'll change it to red. Doodle on the image. Right? Okay, door handles really nice. Okay, there's a bush over here that I could look at, which is really interesting. Okay, there's a bit of brickwork here. That's quite nice. Or maybe I want to look at the door frame. And then you've got your elements that you can choose from. You don't need to talk about them all, but just circle them, and then it gives you direction. Because when the exam starts, it can get quite stressful. So it's always good to have a foundation that you can go back to and think, ah, yes, I wanted to talk about that next. If you wanted to plan it in further detail, just to keep you on track and make sure that you're always focusing on a piece in chronological order because you have a specific order, just put a little number next to it. So 1, 2, 3. And in that way, in the heat of the exam and the stress of the exam, you know exactly where you need to go to next. Just believe me, sitting down and doing this at your computer now and revising is far easier than when you're in that exam, the clock is ticking, everyone's writing, and you need to get this information down within a time frame, and there's no second chances. Sounds a bit doom and gloom, but it is. It is tough, and we just need to make sure that we're as organized as possible in our practices to mitigate any chances of you not completing the task. Because this is worth the most marks on the paper. You want to make sure that you're getting a quality piece and enough content down on the page. So stop just there. And we're back. Now, what we need to do and make sure in description is paramount. Use the five senses. Okay? If you don't use the five senses, then you're doing yourself a real disservice. Okay? You want to engage. Now, one thing that I'm going to say, and a lot of people do, I say use the five senses, they simply just list them. I can see this, I can touch this, I can do this. No, that's not engaging the five senses. We want to use them appropriately in order, again, going back to that word immerse, to immerse the reader in what you're trying to achieve. So use the five senses as a tool to immerse the reader. Okay? Don't just simply list them. Okay? Because it's ineffective and it's a waste of your time. Okay? So use them as a tool to immerse the reader. Now, how do we do that effectively? So, first of all, you need to understand what the five senses are. So we have sight, we have sound or hearing, okay? We have smell or smell, taste, okay? And we have touch, okay? So the best way to do this is take these, okay, and combine them with your language devices, Now, these would be things like your metaphors, etc. Okay, so don't just take them and say, I can smell wood. Attach a metaphor, attach a simile to it, attach a hyperbole to it, and utilize it to the best of its capability. Again, imagine that you are painting a picture for the reader, and with every brush stroke is a new technique or a new sense. And every time that you use one, the picture becomes clearer for the reader. And that's what you want. You want that picture to be really clear in their mind with intent and with focus of what you want to achieve. Okay? Now, that's where planning comes in. But this isn't the only thing. Because if you just write sentences and you combine your senses with your language techniques and your language devices, brilliant. Okay? You'll get a great mark. But to add that, and to add that additional level of content and the additional level of quality, okay, you want to combine again. So this is another point. Sentence variations. So in this, what we need to make sure that we're doing is using long sentences for those drawn out, lengthy descriptions where you're trying to create maybe a sense of anxiety, doom and gloom, excitement, whatever it may be. And then short sentences for any of those moments where you want to increase the tempo, increase the pace, increase the way in which the reader digests the information, and you really control the way in which they read. Longer sentences, they're going to read slower, but they're going to be more labored. So they can create a sense of anxiety as they go through. But short sentences are quick and snappy, and they allow the reader to pick up the pace of their reading. Okay. Now, this obviously comes with challenge, and you don't want to keep repeating the same techniques. So make sure you vary the sentence, long and short sentences, only when it fits, but try and create in your writing a piece of excitement at some point. Create a point where long sentences are going to be able to enrich the description, and they're going to be able to increase that level of description. Okay. Now, if you're using a lot of sentences, which probably are going to be because you're writing a lot, vary the sentence starters. Okay. Starters. Don't keep writing the same sentence starter over and over and over again. Okay. Try a couple of these. Start with an adverb. An adverb. Okay. So an ly word. Y word. Go slowly. Pretty default, but similar. Slowly we walked across mossy grass. Or slowly the fog engulfed me like a blanket. Something like that. That works nice. So, or you can then do a prepositional phrase. Okay, so like beneath the fog, very basic, but beneath the fog, beneath the blanket of the fog, beneath the cold blanket of the fog. Okay, and you can use those to begin your sentences appropriate too. So try starting with an adverb, prepositional phrases beneath the fog, fog, and then maybe you could start with a verb. Okay, so let's think of one. Screaming, screaming inside my mind, inside my mind. Okay, maybe not applicable for this. The screaming inside my mind. Start with the verb. Straight away, just jump in with the verb. And this gives variation to your reader. It also allows you to challenge yourself and incorporate different types of sentences. And it also hits the exam board's marking criteria in that you are using a variety of sentences, well constructed sentences, and sentences that engage the reader appropriately. Now, some final tips. Okay. Remember, this is description. Okay. This is description. Do not focus on moving a story forward. One of the biggest mistakes people made. Story forward. Okay. This is just a snapshot. Just a snapshot. And that's all it has to be. Okay. Just a snapshot, a moment in time, a particular event that has happened, or a description of a particular image. Does not need a narrative, does not need a plot, does not need to have characters that progress through. Just has to stay at that. Okay. Now, you don't have to use the image. You are prompted to use the image, but I would always say use the image. Okay? Use the image you're given. Why wouldn't you? Okay? It's there to be used. Give yourself that advantage. Okay, you're not here to rewrite Harry Potter or create the finest description in the world. You're here to pass an exam and use all of the tools that are at your disposal in order to get those maximum marks. If you want to go away and rewrite the description later in a fashion that doesn't use the image, absolutely go do that in your spare time, but you're going to pass the exam. Okay, now my final thing that I need to mention is time management. Okay, time management. Keep an eye on the clock. Okay. With this maybe being your first one, you may fall short of the time. you may finish too early, okay? But this is why we practice, and this is why you're doing it so early, so that we can really hone in on that time management. It's one of the most important factors of this paper, and it's one of the things that is most pressured around the English language. And then the final point that I have to add before we conclude this is do not skip plan. Okay? This will allow for a cohesive piece of writing and writer's block throughout your piece of writing, or you feel like you're not sure where to go next, you can always refer back to the plan. Better to spend 5 minutes on a plan than not have one, because that way you're ensuring that your writing goes in the direction you want it to go in. Think of it as like mapping a route on a sat nav before you go in. Exactly the same thing. Spend 5 minutes putting the route in, and you have a smooth journey. Don't you get lost, take the wrong turn, etc. Same with writing. You could end up waffling and going. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Forward me a message, send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help. Take care.